What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Suffering builds character. The strongest steel is forged in the fires of hell. These are all more or less baseline assumptions in our society. Some will call suffering a trial by fire. It's a test. It's a learning experience that can better you. This concept is embedded pretty deep into our society. Everywhere you look, stories are being shoved at us about people who faced down hardship and found success. We are told that if we can just get through whatever hard times we are in and keep at it, then we're stronger for it. That the hells we have survived are our greatest teachers. This does not sit right with me. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger does not sit right with me. But I never really understood why it didn't. At least until I encountered Art Spiegelman's Mouse. Mouse is a graphic novel by Art Spiegelman. It was released in 2 parts, the first in 1983 and then the second in 1991. Mouse tells the story of Art's father Vladek surviving the Holocaust, portraying Jews as mice and Germans as cats. Just as much as the book follows Vladek's experience through the Holocaust, it follows Art's own experience interviewing his father and writing the book. Nearly all media about the Holocaust feels detached. There's always some invisible barrier between you and the tragedy unfolding. In spite of the choice to fill its world with different animals instead of people, Mouse manages to destroy this barrier. Art is so personal and so honest that the reader feels exposed. We learn a lot about the Vladek of the present, but for now I want to focus on the Vladek of the past, the one that endured the Holocaust, the one that suffered so much. Under the backdrop of the Nazis coming to power, Vladek gets engaged to and marries Anya, Art's mother. They have a kid and open a factory. They were very well off, having reached a point where both of them were happy with their lives. When their home of Poland gets invaded, Vladek briefly fights in the Polish army, but eventually finds his way back to his wife and son. The two of them get increasingly worried as more and more Jews keep vanishing to somewhere. Anya and Vladek weren't able to find a new normal. They had to give up their son, and eventually the Nazis started grabbing every Jew to send to a ghetto. The pair and around 10 others were hiding in a bunker. A stranger stumbled upon their bunker when looking for food. Taking pity on him, the hiding Jews gave him a little food and sent him on his way. The Gestapo came that afternoon. Anya and Vladek were barely holding themselves together in the ghetto that they were taken to. Eventually, they lost their nephew, who was the last person they still had other than each other. Then the final solution was enacted. Every Jew was to be sent to a concentration camp. The pair was lucky enough to be hiding in a bunker when the Gestapo cleared out the ghetto. They found a barn to hide in, but this was a temporary solution and Vladek knew it. He had managed to get into contact with smugglers to take him and Anya to Hungary. She had a bad feeling about the smugglers, but Vladek convinced her that it was their best decision. They made their move to escape. The smugglers took their money, then sold them out to the Nazis. Vladek and Anya were taken to Auschwitz and separated. The horrors of Auschwitz were something I was familiar with, but I was not ready to see it happen to someone I had spent the last 200 pages getting to know. The slave labor, the starving, the beatings, the dice roll every day that you would be sent to the gas chambers. Vladek says that at Auschwitz, the ones who died in the gas chambers were the lucky ones. The Jews would be forced to dig massive pits. Gasoline would then be poured over everyone in them, alive or dead. The tone set by the cat and mouse analogy left me completely unprepared for panels like this one. You see cats do this to mice and have to imagine people doing it to other people. As the Russians closed in on Auschwitz, the Nazis wanted to destroy the evidence. Everyone still alive was shoved into a tiny boxcar and shipped off to another camp in mainland Germany. Vladek got typhus from this and was just barely managing to cling to life. The Nazis were planning on killing the last of their prisoners, but the Americans arrived, and Vladek was finally free. He made it back to Poland and was able to reunite with Anya, who also managed to survive. Let's jump forward in time. Wladek and Anya both survived the Holocaust. I have a question to pose about the two of them. Is their character any stronger for the suffering they were put through? The Holocaust didn't kill them, and what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, no? The book doesn't give much information about the Anya of the present, because Anya killed herself 15 years before the first volume was published. She never recovered from what the Holocaust did to her. And Wladek? Well, we do get to know about the Wladek of the present. For starters, he became obsessed with saving money. He would take tons of paper towels from public restrooms so he wouldn't have to buy napkins or tissues. Gas was included in his rent, so he would leave his stove on at all times. That way he wouldn't have to buy matches to light it. This obsession probably comes from the hell he survived. Art theorizes as much. Who knows how many times he didn't have enough money for a bribe, or didn't have enough money to send his first son somewhere safe enough to have survived the war. Wherever it comes from, the obsession puts a massive strain on his relationships. He remarried after Anya took her life, and his new wife Mala accuses Wladek of only having married her since she was the same size as Anya. That way he wouldn't have to buy more clothes. Mala didn't work and Wladek had plenty of money, but he wouldn't budge even a nickel, even as Mala cared for him through his heart attacks. This eventually led to their relationship collapsing. Art says that Wladek had always been like that as long as he could remember. Whenever he needed any new school supplies or anything, Anya would have to argue and plead with Wladek for weeks. But when you look deeper than the pragmatic exterior of Wladek, you see guilt. So much survivor's guilt. He had to be better at his son than everything, fixing the roof, even counting pills. This is actually why Art started drawing comics. His dad deemed them useless, so it was the one thing that Art got to do without having to compete with his own father. Art's therapist theorizes that Wladek needed to show that he was always right, that he could always survive, because he felt guilty about surviving. He just took that guilt out on his son. This is what suffering does to people. It doesn't forge them into stronger steel. It doesn't serve as their greatest teacher. It doesn't build their character. It just makes them suffer. I looked through interviews with Art, and eventually I stumbled upon a short comic that he made very recently. He and fellow cartoonist Joe Sacco published Never Again and Again in February of this year. It's only 3 pages, but you learn a lot about the two authors. Art talks about Mouse a little bit here and there, but there's one main panel I want to talk about. The word I hate is Holocaust, from Greek for burnt offering to the gods. My family never agreed to be human sacrifices. They were murdered. Think about the word sacrifice. A sacrifice implies a silver lining. A sacrifice is for the greater good. Art is right. His family weren't sacrifices. There was no greater good to what happened to them. They were murdered. Still, society expects people to grow from their suffering, to find a lesson in what happened to them. Google any successful person in the format of what blank learned from the hardest time in their life, or blank from struggles to success. They all want you to think that they suffered, that they struggled, how it bettered them. This is what I learned from my suffering this, how I was taught by my struggles that. Mouse completely unravels these notions. Mouse is a terrifying book. The camps, the burning, despite all of that, the part of the book that I found the scariest happened long after the war ended. Art and his wife Francois are driving Wladek home from the grocery store, and Francois stops for a hitchhiker. Wladek takes notice. Oi, it's a colored guy, then uses a slur in Yiddish for black people. After the hitchhiker is dropped off, Wladek has some more things to say. It's just, I don't understand. How can someone who lived through this go go on to do this. Francois even calls him out. How can you, of all people, be such a racist? You talk about blacks the way that the Nazis talked about the Jews. And she's right. This is terrifying to me. Terrifying. How did Vladek survive one of the worst hells ever created and learn nothing? How is he embodying the same hatred, the same racism that... Suffering doesn't teach people lessons. It just makes them suffer. To anyone who believes that suffering is a character-building experience, that's okay. Honestly, there might even be some cases where you're correct. But Art Spiegelman poses one last question for you. If we do live in a world where suffering builds character, how big of a genocide would we need for one to never happen again?